welcome Your Excellency. Your Excellency, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic.
Good morning and welcome to the outside broadcast of the Nigerian Air Force International Air Power Seminar 2018. The seminar will provide a forum for experienced practitioners of air power across the globe to interact and exchange ideas with the Nigerian Air Force in line with international best practices in air support operations, intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance missions, and air interdictions. With over 20 countries participating, the seminar, which is the maiden edition, is with the theme Air Power in Irregular Warfare, a framework for understanding and responding. On behalf of the outside broadcast crew of the Nigerian Television Authority, we say welcome once more, and I am Olajide Bello.
The officers' mess are shown on the screen. The exit signs are marked green as shown on the screen. The auditorium has a total of 10 emergency exits, comprising 6 inner emergency exits and 4 outer exits. You will need to go through the inner exits to access the 4 outer exits that lead you out of the building. However, one of the inner exits leads directly out of the auditorium. To your front are 2 passages, one on the left and another on the right. The passage on the left leads to 2 inner emergency exits, one of which is also the entry route through which you access this auditorium. From the 2 inner emergency exits to your left, you can access outer emergency exits to evacuate the building completely. The passage to your right leads to 1 inner emergency exit, which links you to 3 outer emergency exits through which you can leave the building. Please note that the right passage is reserved firstly for the guest of honor's use, before it shall be made available to other top dignitaries. To your left are 2 stairways that lead to 2 inner emergency exits on the corridor. Should you need to use the convenience, you may, upon descending the stairways, proceed to the end of the corridor where the male and female lavatories are situated. At the back of the auditorium is an inner emergency exit to the right, which leads directly out of the building. You are please kindly requested to note the exits closest to you. In the event of an emergency that requires evacuation from the building, you are please requested to use the exit nearest to you. When you hear the first alarm, please remain alert and prepare yourself for any possible evacuation. If you hear the second continuous alarm, followed by an announcement on the public address system, please leave your seat immediately and proceed in a calm manner to the nearest emergency exit to you. Should this exit be blocked, please follow the next available exit and be prepared to assist persons who may be having difficulty. Our safety marshals are deployed at all times at the emergency exit, and they will direct you out of the building to the assembly area, which is located in front of the officers' mess. Accordingly, you are advised not to re-enter the building until instructed that it is safe to do so. Please be advised that this is a no-smoking facility. However, there are designated areas for smoking which you may use. For medical attention, the medical team is stationed at the assembly point in front of the officers' mess. You are kindly requested to report any unusual or suspicious observation to the security personnel. The emergency numbers for the medical and security teams are shown on the screen and included on page 21 in the program of events. Thank you for your rapt attention. May I now call on Group Captain S. Peter to continue with the program.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, the entire Air Force family is indeed glad to have you in our midst this morning. Please permit me to respectfully invite our indefatigable Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal S.B. Abubakar, distinguished flying Star to give the welcome address on the occasion of this maiden Nigerian Air Force International Air Power Seminar. The Chief of the Air Staff, sir.
The special guest of honor, His Excellency, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, members of the National Assembly here present, Honorable Minister of Defense and other ministers here present, the Chief of Defense Staff, service chiefs, and the Inspector General of Police, chief members of the diplomatic community, chiefs of air staff from invited countries, military officers both serving and retired, distinguished invited guests, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure and honor as the chief host of this event to welcome the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, Grand Commander of the Federal Republic, and indeed all our distinguished invited guests, on behalf of the officers, airmen, and airwomen of the Nigerian Air Force, to the Nigerian Air Force International Air Power Seminar. The Nigerian Air Force has for several years hosted the Air Expo among other events. However, the security situation in Nigeria and the rapidly changing dynamics in the international arena, the changing approach to warfare requires careful understanding of the threats and response options available for the projection of air power in addressing national security imperatives. We therefore deem it necessary to host this International Air Power Seminar to serve as a platform to exchange of ideas on the best way to apply air power in irregular warfare. The changing character of warfare has imposed the need for a change in the way armed forces approach warfare. While the engagement in conventional or regular warfare remains a possibility, the global predominant threat to nations has become more irregular in nature. Irregular warfare by its nature is asymmetrical, and it covers a wide range of activities with insurgency and counterinsurgency operations at its core. The Nigerian military has been engaged in irregular warfare of recent, particularly in its fight against Boko Haram insurgents. Since the beginning of this decade, despite many challenges associated with this type of warfare, the Nigerian Air Force has over the years actively employed air power in dealing with security challenges facing our nation. On assumption of duty, I envision the repositioning of the Nigerian Air Force into a highly professional and disciplined force through capacity-building initiatives for effective, efficient, and timely employment of air power in response to Nigeria's security imperatives. Mr. President, sir, distinguished invited guests, permit me to observe that the Nigerian Air Force has consistently optimized our local technology through research and development to meet our peculiar technological needs. All this and the sacrifices of our officers and men have contributed immensely to degrading the capacity of criminal elements that are threatening our national sovereignty. A wide range of counterinsurgency operations have been conducted both singly and in coordination with other services, while a series of air interdiction and close air support missions have been conducted against the insurgents. We have also conducted intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance missions, airlift operations, casualty and medical evacuation, and other operations that exploit the peculiar characteristics of air power. Between the 1st of June 2015 and 31st of October 2018, the Nigerian Air Force flew a total of 51,582 hours, 15 minutes in 39,807 sorties to deliver the air power that has helped to deny Boko Haram freedom of action and create an enabling environment for our surface forces to conduct their operations effectively. To succeed in irregular warfare, the role of the population where the war is fought is very critical. Government forces and the general population must see themselves as partners in progress, working together to restore peace and security. We must debunk the narratives of the terrorists and endear ourselves as patriots in the hearts and minds of our people. I would like to reiterate that based on our understanding of the nature of irregular warfare, the Nigerian Air Force and indeed the military have deployed massive non-kinetic means in the theater of operations. Consequently, civil-military coordination activities are carried out simultaneously alongside air operations. We are very active in the internally displaced people's camp in providing medical, educational, security, and general basic needs of our displaced people. Our medical outreaches in the Northeast are very robust and have gone a long way to accentuate government presence in the Northeast of the country. For instance, the Nigerian Air Force has established level 2 hospitals in Bama and Dalori, where surgical intervention services are provided for internally displaced persons, while medical outreach programs are conducted in several communities across the country. Between 2015 and today, We have provided medical services to over 295,000 patients and have conducted 661 general surgeries and 848 eye surgeries amongst the displaced persons across the country, with well over 80% of these being carried out in the northeastern part of the country. In the same vein, the Nigerian Air Force has conducted skill acquisition programs for IDPs, airlifted relief materials for distressed persons, and extracted vulnerable and aged persons from high-risk areas. These efforts, which are aimed at winning the hearts and minds of the populace, do not only endear the Nigerian Air Force to the people, but also create effects in ways that will enforce the will and commitment of government to the well-being of the citizenry. In the long term, the focus of the Nigerian Air Force is to develop the capacity and capability to efficiently engage a three-block war on a grand scale, where humanitarian, peacekeeping/stabilization, and combat operations are conducted simultaneously. I would at this point like to appreciate the efforts of the federal government led by our President Muhammadu Buhari, for consistently giving us the support that has enabled us to progress this far. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, despite these efforts and aspirations, we believe that nobody, and indeed no country, knows it all, and the quest to broaden knowledge and understanding will require the experiences of others. As aptly put by Sir Isaac Newton, who as far back as 1675 said, and I quote, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants," unquote. The Nigerian Air Force wishes to leverage on the experiences of our friends and international partners to deal with irregular threats in Nigeria and the West African sub-region more efficiently and effectively. We are therefore open to benefit from the experiences of both local and international subject matter experts in the field of air power application, particularly as it relates to irregular warfare, which has become almost pervasive in our time. We know that there are countries that have fought or are currently engaged in fighting insurgencies, and we are convinced that their experiences will be invaluable to the Nigerian Air Force. It is in view of this that we have chosen the theme of the seminar to be Air Power in Irregular Warfare, a framework for understanding and responding. This theme aptly captures our sentiments and desire to get a better understanding of the nature and response options for the current security situation that we are dealing with. The seminar is conceptualized to provide a forum for cross-think tank domain discussions where experienced air power practitioners and academics in related fields working in similar emerging threat environments will interact with air power practitioners of the Nigerian Air Force. It is in view of this that we have carefully selected air power practitioners and researchers from all over the world to share their thoughts on the theme in order to add value to our ongoing counterinsurgency efforts. We recognize that the successful conduct of counterinsurgency operations depends on a clear understanding of the required overriding framework and policy that will enable us to implement a whole-of-nation approach in fighting the war. Although the Nigerian Air Force is in constant collaboration with other agencies and international organizations operating in the Northeast, we realize the need to mobilize all ministries, departments, and agencies, and indeed the entire population of Nigeria to support government's counterinsurgency efforts. We have therefore designated some papers in this seminar to deal with policy issues associated with irregular warfare. Just as one element of national power cannot successfully defeat an insurgency, so also one country cannot do it alone due to the fluid and cross-border nature of these threats. Hence, coalition building is a necessity for any successful counterinsurgency operation. We have therefore also designated speakers to share their experience on coalition building. Additionally, one of the motivations for hosting this seminar is the increasing realization of the overriding need for the application of air power in irregular warfare. However, because of its characteristics and wide-ranging effects, air power could be devastating if misapplied. Also, it is not just enough to be effective. There is the need for efficiency in the application of air power. There is also the need for training on various air power specialties required to conduct irregular warfare. Thus, this seminar has dedicated some time to consider issues associated with air power application, training, as well as ethical concerns in the application of air power in irregular warfare. The seminar topics are therefore built around three broad strands of learning. The first is public policy making. The second is air power application, while the third is training for the ethical application of air power. The three-day program is designed to address one or more broad strands each day. The format of the seminar is conceived to be slightly different from other seminars in order to allow for maximum participation from the invited audience. Rather than selected discussants to discuss the paper, we consider it more beneficial to have more open flow discussion from the audience as much as possible. For today, which is day one of this event, we'll be taking topics from the policy-making strand. The paper will be on the role of national power in irregular warfare, to be delivered by Professor Sumantar of Nigeria Defense Academy. This paper seeks to emphasize the need to employ not just the military, but all the elements of national power when prosecuting irregular warfare. Paper 2 will be on understanding irregular warfare and its challenges to air power application, with emphasis on the Jordanian experience. And we are very excited and glad to have Major General Yusuf, the commander of the Royal Jordanian Air Force, to share his country's experience with us. In the next couple of days, we also hope to gain from the experiences of our friends from Colombia, the United Kingdom, Pakistan, South Africa, and Saudi Arabia. Other countries are as shown on the screen. We hope that from the experiences of our friends and partners, we will get inspiration and ideas that will help us better apply our power in counterinsurgency operations and make us more effective and efficient in the discharge of our duty to our beloved country. On this note, let me once again warmly welcome Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces and all our distinguished invited guests to the Nigerian Air Force Officers Mess for this International Air Power Seminar. Welcome and God bless.
Thank you very much, sir. Your Excellency, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, at this juncture, please permit me to respectfully invite the Honorable Minister of Defense, Mansour Muhammad Dan Ali, to give his opening remarks. The Honorable Minister, sir.
The special guest of honor, His Excellency President Muhammad Buhari, GCFR President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, members of the National Assembly here present, honorable ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Chief of Defense Staff, our host, the Chief of Air Staff, the Chief of Naval Staff, and other representatives of the service here present, the Inspector General of Police, ex-service chief here present, members of the diplomatic corps, chief of air staff of the invited countries, military officers, both serving and retired, distinguished invited guests, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed glad to witness this International Air Force Seminar, which is being hosted by the Chief of Air Staff, and to appreciate his efforts in bringing this noble idea to fruition. The Ministry of Defense is quite appreciative of this important role of the Nigerian Air Force that has been playing in the counter-terrorism and counter-insurgency operation in the northeast part of Nigeria. I am also aware of the both kinetic and the non-kinetic efforts of the Nigerian Air Force that have been expanding in support of these operations, all of which have been instrumental to the degrading of incident and bringing succor to our victims in our nation. We realize that None of the services can by themselves defeat. While emphasizing, the joint and indeed international nature of counterinsurgency operation, permit me to thank the officers, airmen and women of the Nigerian Air Force by consistent and professional manner which they play in handling these operations. I believe the seminar will provide an international and options for the Air Force and its counterinsurgency operations based on experiences from other countries, especially at this critical moment we are currently facing the Northeast operation. The seminar perfectly fits in the Ministry of Defense vision of ensuring the much-needed synergy and cooperation, not just within the services, but across the ministerial boundaries in support of our national security operatives. With the continuous support of the federal government under the able leadership of our noble President and leader, President Muhammadu Buhari, who are doing our best to ensure that maximum utilization of resources in the procurement of military equipment and other resources that are required by the services in prosecuting the counterinsurgency operation, and enable environment towards the restoration of peace and security of lives, of airfare. The Nigerian Air Force has done a lot to project the force and supported the advancement of ground troops in the theater operation, and which is still needed. The Ministry of Defense, in its part, has not relented in supporting the counterinsurgency effort through collaboration with other ministries such as Interior, Information, Health and Works, as well as other departments and agencies like National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. Most of these collaborative efforts are facilitated through the Nigerian Air Force airlift capabilities, as already shown on the screen. The ministry will therefore continue to support the ongoing counterinsurgency operation by the Nigerian Air Force. At this juncture, Your Excellencies, let me congratulate the Chief of Air Staff and the entire officers, airmen and airwomen of the Nigerian Air Force for this noble initiative, for seeking out direct information and knowledge from friendly nations who have accepted to share their experience in the conduct of various forms of irregular warfare. Permit me to also express our profound gratitude to His Excellency, the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I also thank all our international guests, far and near, for being part of this historic seminar, and look forward in gaining from your valuable contribution and experiences. May I also crave the indulgence of His Excellency, the President and Commander-in-Chief, to take the nation, assist in calling the nation to take us to high level. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you very much, sir, for those heartwarming remarks. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the high point of this event. I therefore have the honor and privilege to invite our special guest of honor, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, Grand Commander of the Federal, to give his keynote address. Please join me as we welcome our amiable President to the rostrum with a round of applause.
Yeah, please sit down. The honorable ministers present here, members of the diplomatic corps, Chief of Defense Staff, Chief of Air Staff, Senior Chief, and representative of the Inspector General of Police, Chief of Air Staff from invited countries, senior government officials, former service chiefs, military officers, both serving and retired, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted to be here today at this first Nigerian Air Force International Air Power Seminar with the theme, Air Power in Irregular Warfare, a framework for understanding and responding. This seminar is quite timely in that since the outbreak of the Boko Haram crisis in the northeast, the Air Force, and indeed all our armed forces, have been engaged in conducting counter-insurgency operations that have challenged the service's doctrine, tactics, training, order of battle, and force protection architecture. Seminars like this are thus necessary for armed forces like our Air Force to draw from the experiences of other armed forces that have either previously or are currently engaged in counter-insurgency operations. I must accordingly commend the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Baba Abubakar, for this initiative. We all know that insurgency sucks in considerable military resources, but invariably its root causes are political and civilian in nature. In this regard, we have mobilized relevant agencies and international organizations to support the counter-insurgency effort in order to ensure success. Successful policies require a holistic approach. In our current emergency, we have mobilized our neighbors and traditional authorities in our quest to root out the problem which has its roots in the economy and society. This administration is therefore committed to diversifying our economy. We have been partnering with friendly countries, economies, to attract much needed foreign direct investment. Side by side, our policies are designed to entrench and strengthen security, stability, and shared prosperity. We are accordingly looking at alternate means of generating electricity to power our industries and meet domestic demand. I assure you, all that a lot has been achieved in this regard, and we are putting in more effort in order to achieve more. This is to ensure that we build an economically prosperous, politically stable, socially just, and truly democratic Nigeria, where security of lives and property is guaranteed. We are also committed to ensuring that our armed forces are appropriately trained and equipped to deal with the contemporary challenges of a globalized world, of which insurgency and terrorism have become of greatest concern. In the last few years, government's effort at re-professionalizing the armed forces for improved performance has yielded positive results. The provision of modern equipment and motivation of personnel through enhanced welfare is ongoing, and I am aware that training activities within the armed forces has improved tremendously. We will continue to support the drive to modernize the armed forces through enhanced budgetary allocation in their quest to meet the constitutional demands of protecting Nigeria's sovereignty and territorial integrity. I therefore charge the armed forces, particularly our Air Force, to maintain their efficiency and professionalism in carrying out their constitutional duties. I would like to stress that there has been steady improvement in the security situation in the Northeast, where the Boko Haram activities have been confined in recent times. We have denied them the ability to hold the territory and the freedom of movement to operate at will, and they now resort to sectarial attacks on soft targets. Our thoughts and prayers are always with the victims of families of the Boko Haram atrocities. We remain committed to ensuring that the crisis comes to an end while making the Northeast and indeed all parts of Nigeria safe for all to live and prosper. Let me, as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, once again assure the military that I will continue to ensure appropriate funding for our armed forces in order to enhance capacity building and deepen professionalism. Finally, I wish to express my profound appreciation to all the countries represented at this gathering, especially our partners and friends that have contributed in one way or the other towards the success of our counter-insurgency operations. I hope that the quality of papers to be delivered and subsequent discussions will be beneficial to the Nigerian Air Force in particular, the Nigerian Armed Forces, and Nigeria in general. On this note, I have the singular honor to declare this International Air Power Seminar open. I thank you, and may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for your words of encouragement. We are indeed very grateful. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, next on our